In today's current state of market, growth and expansion of customers is critical. No longer should companies focus on sales at all costs, and growing your largest customers is a must. How to do that starts with clean, accurate data in Salesforce. Today we have Traction Complete's Chief Revenue Officer, Jamie Smithers, a seasoned revenue leader with over 25 years of experience scaling Series A to Series D companies at some of the biggest names in tech, such as Oracle, NetSuite, SAP. And we have Adam Brule, Head of Solutions Consulting at Traction Complete, with over 10 years in tech, with plenty of in-field experience as a seller and BDR. We're going to be diving deep into the Traction Complete platform and show how you can turn your organization into an efficient, account-based selling machine. Jamie, Adam, it's so great to have you here. Thank you so much for doing this. Really excited to dive into the platform, but before we even get into that, I think it'd be really good just to hear a little bit more about your story and how you found your way at Traction Complete.
Thanks, Anthony. So a couple things about me. First, I love to win. I got my pin here. I started in tech just after we had won back-to-back national titles at the University of Denver for skiing, of all things. And I feel like I've carried that winning ways into my professional work career. So now 20 plus years working in high tech, leading high performance teams to our own little mini national championships, if you will. I was thrilled to know of Traction from many years back and got to introduce to the people, the technology, the customers, and how the common thread was these organizations that Traction is partnering with, that are attracting, are all people who really love to win and make their organizations better and more high performing. So that kind of led me to Traction. Outside of work, my personal life, family of four, two boys. We have a bit of a hobby farm. So I have goats, chickens, dog, cat, bees, and living in the mountains, actually. And when I'm not in the fast pace of high tech, I try to get out and run, ski, mountain bike, and do other things like that.
I love it. That's a full house and a full calendar. I have two little ones myself at home, expecting a third, so our house is going to be pretty full too. And yeah, I think you mentioned sports. I think we don't realize all the little things we're learning along the way and those other life experiences that are so applicable to what we're doing in the business world. And so I want to encourage my kids to be in sports and everything too, because you learn so many life lessons that are applicable across the board. So, but that's amazing. Sounds like a credible career and segueing into an ability to really help Traction Complete get to that next stage of growth too. Adam, how about you? Do you have any goats or chickens?
Yeah, so no animals right now. I became a dad for the first time last year, so that's been keeping me very busy. For myself, I've been at Traction Complete for just over 6.5 years, where I've been focused on helping RevOps teams solve their critical go-to-market challenges and really master their data complexity inside Salesforce. During that time, I had the privilege of working both as a seller as well as leading our pre-sales team and helping our customers to achieve their goals that way. Another thing about me is that I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan, and I'm very passionate about journeys and helping people achieve their goals.
Absolutely. Thank you both for being here. It's I think we're gonna have some fun going through everything. So I I know Traction Complete has had not the typical tech story. I would say it's had a very unique way of growing into the amazing organization it is today. I think before we hop into tech, just kind of hearing that story arc of how Traction Complete got to where you all are today would be really great for our audience to hear.
Great. So yes, we have a unique story. So we were a services organization. Traction on Demand was one of the most successful consulting organizations over a decade. It grew to almost 1,400 employees, and then it actually was sold into Salesforce. Out of that, though, were multiple product companies spun out, and Traction Complete being one of the key ones that we're here talking about today. was born out of realizing that there was continued complexity in Salesforce as it related to revenue operations and the sales go-to-market. In particular, the first product that was created from Traction Complete was related to hierarchies. What hierarchies means is maybe that doesn't resonate, but what organizations were trying to solve was things like what we'll talk about today, which is account-based selling, understanding the white space, making sure that there was real-time visibility and automated to ensuring that the right account was with the right seller, and that especially in larger organizations or companies that wanted to sell to larger organizations, there was a clear link to understanding the parent-child relationship so that that right account was covered, ultimately creating the best sales experience for that organization. So that's where we started. Now today, we've been able to expand and launch additional great flagship products into lead routing and automated, to cleaning, to the orchestration, understanding stakeholder mapping. So now we talk about cleaning, connecting, and full orchestration of the data management side, and ultimately removing that complexity from your Salesforce or Salesforce instance.
Today, we'll be focusing on the importance of managing and automating data processes to support growth and really help you to drive that account-based selling motion. Go-to-market processes are complex, and data are really critical at every stage of your growth journey. Really, and although growth provides those opportunities, it also brings a lot of challenges and complexity to our day-to-day that we need to manage with part of those go-to-market operations. And when it comes down to it, poor data and poor data processes can become that inhibitor to growth, and we really need to be able to manage them properly. So today we're going to talk about how Traction Complete can help you to cleanse, connect, and orchestrate your data to help you overcome that complexity in your go-to-market operations.
So, Adam, spot on. So, like, this is so critical. As a CRO of various stages, data is at the forefront of everything that we do. And if you want, as I started earlier, was like, if you want to win, you have to get the data right. And if you start to think about, again, whether you're at various stages of small, I've been privileged to be at small startups, pre-revenue, to stage A, B, series A, B, C, D, to large companies like Oracle and SAP. The trigger events are still the same, which is you have new offers, you want to grow, you have perhaps acquisitions, perhaps you want to really implement as we talked about, Anthony, an account-based selling motion, meaning you want to sell to your existing customers or to larger accounts. No matter where you are at in that journey, the foundational piece is critical. And today, businesses, I would argue they don't have a choice, but clearly the winning ones are prioritizing that and starting with cleaning, connecting, and then I'll use our words here of then being able to take advantage or orchestrate that whole data journey so that your sales team can create the best possible experience in front of your customers. And so Adam is going to now dive in and show us what that looks like within Traction Complete.
So then the question comes up then, how do we manage all this go-to-market complexity? And it really comes down to process and automation. So where our platform fits into the equation here is cleansing data. We would be able to both clean up data en masse, but also proactively manage data. That as new data is coming into Salesforce every day, all the time, we have more leads, we have new accounts being created, we have new opportunities. So to be able to manage and deal with duplicates and cleanse data on an ongoing basis is critical to kind of supporting that process. But then also connecting data as well, that if data is not connected in the right way, this is where we miss the opportunities to understand the context of data when it's coming into Salesforce, whether we have leads coming from current customers or we have open opportunities, or we know that we're getting leads from accounts that are part of our hierarchies or complex accounts. Being able to understand that comes to be able to connect that data in Salesforce. And then ultimately to orchestrate that once we have that clean data, we've connected it in the right way. How do we then build out the rules and the automation to make sure that we get the data to go into the right places, that we're assigning leads to the right people at the right time as quickly as possible, that we're making sure that accounts are owned by the right people and things like that. And this is all part of the automation that we need to drive to support the go-to-market operations as we grow as an organization.
Yeah, it's a big challenge. Especially some of these areas where I see lead to account and hierarchy based matching, those are not simple problems to solve. Let's dive in. Let's see how you guys solve it and let's see what you guys do.
So where I would want to start is with leads, and leads are a critical part of the go-to-market process, really both for growth, but also for data hygiene. That when you think of leads, they're unqualified, unvalidated data that's coming into your Salesforce. You have leads coming from events, from manual creation from your users, you have web forms, and you get great leads from your target accounts, but you also get some junk. Like as a former BDR, I remember I actually once received a lead for Frodo Baggins from the Shire. And so that
You must have been excited. That must have been the best lead you've ever gotten.
I was torn because I was happy from one perspective, but on the other hand, it did burn my turn in the round robin queue. But yeah, and the thing is that those things don't need to be in the core part of your database. You don't need a contact for Frodo Baggins from the Shire in your Salesforce. And so leads are a key part of protecting the core part of Salesforce and allowing you to have this process to manage this new data as it comes into Salesforce. And I think that's a great part of the design of Salesforce. But the challenge with leads is that they do have no relationship to the rest of your data. So they're not connected to your accounts or your contacts or your opportunities. And as you grow, this is where a lot of those challenges come from. That now when these leads come in, well, hey, we have current customers, but nothing tells us that this lead is associated to a current customer when we use Salesforce natively. We have duplicates. And again, there's very limited control within Salesforce on how we manage duplicates in that way. And so there's this need to be able to qualify and validate leads. And the way that we do that is through automation and through the accurate assignment, getting the right lead to the right person as quickly as possible. And that's where our product fits in to be able to do that cleansing, to do that connecting, and then orchestrate the process of how we manage once we've done that. So I want to take an example here. So let's say that in this case, we have Jessica, she's gone onto the website, she's filled out the web form, and we have, this is usually what we see as the minimum for most companies looking to put on there, that it's first name, last name, email, and company name. As we know in Salesforce, the assignment is very limited, that we can assign based off of data that's on the lead, and we can either assign to a particular user or we can assign a queue. There's no ability to do account-based assignment or the sophisticated assignment that we need to do when we're kind of growing and we have that more complexity in Salesforce. And so I'm going to talk through how our product would then support this in a different way. So I'm going to click submit there. And so then if we jump into Salesforce, we can see that now this record has been created. And if we look at the record, we can see that straight away, the company name has been normalized to Unison Industries LLC. And so you might remember that we just had it as Unison Industries. And so when records get created, when we match leads to accounts, we can actually normalize those values. So that again, when we talk about the cleanliness and the integrity of data, then we can make sure that that is consistent across Salesforce. We can also enrich this lead with data that we've matched to as well. So we can pull things like the annual revenue, the number of employees. What is our relationship with that account? Is it a customer account? Is it a target account? Is it a partner account? And this is all helpful, one, for the end users, the BDRs and the sellers, to have that context around our relationship with these leads, but also from a marketing perspective, because now we can understand not just how many leads that we're getting, but what type of leads. Did we run a marketing event and we found that actually 80% of the leads were from current customers when the goal was actually to drive net new? But if we're not able to connect leads to accounts in the first place, we just know that we have this volume of leads. And this is where that connecting data and then orchestrating and enriching is really important as part of this process. And so when we match leads to accounts, we're actually creating a relationship in Salesforce. We're filling that gap between where leads are not connected to accounts. We're actually creating that relationship. So we can see here that we're connected to the Unison Industries account. We can see that Zach is the owner, and we actually have an open opportunity. But accounts is not the only thing that we can match to. We can actually match anything to anything as part of our solution. And so we think about, well, hey, we might want to match leads to existing leads and look at doing proactive deduplication and merging records that way to clean up Salesforce, so we don't end up with two BDRs trying to call the same lead, which is pretty embarrassing for the company if those kind of eventualities happen. Or Other scenarios would be, well, hey, what if leads come in from current customers? We don't want to make phone calls to current customers and not know that they're current customers. You get that question, do you even have a CRM if you call somebody in that kind of case? It almost defeats the whole purpose of relationship management if you're not able to actually manage your relationships appropriately. And so as part of that, when we do that matching, we also bring all that data together to understand, well, what are all the leads that match to this lead? So we have this context. What are the contacts? Who are we already working with? Who's working those relationships? Are there open opportunities or closed won opportunities? Is there even context historically from a closed lost opportunity that if as a BDR, you call somebody and you said, hey, we had a previous relationship, the quality of conversation is a massive driver of conversion. And we're going to talk about this a little bit about speed to lead. But once you've actually got somebody on the phone, that context, that quality of conversation has such a big impact on your ability to convert, create opportunities, and hence drive growth within Salesforce. And as you kind of look to go up market and that complexity grows, well, then you might need to start looking at like enterprise relationships. That how does this company fit into the context of larger accounts? And so if we look at Unison Industries is actually part of General Electric. And so this is, now we're looking at another part of our platform, which has the ability to automate account hierarchies in Salesforce and bring that visibility to your sellers and to your go-to-market teams so that they can understand not that just Jessica's from a 600-person company, but that she's actually from a manufacturing company that's part of this larger enterprise. Do we already have a relationship at that level? Do we have things like MSAs, or are we looking to try and sell more strategically to this account? We can help the users answer these questions and put this visibility onto the lead object, the account object, the opportunity object. So it's a consistent view, the bottom line being that we have a 360 picture of our relationship, including bringing together all that related data, like who are the contacts that we work with across this entire hierarchy? What are the other leads that we have across this entire hierarchy? And even opportunities, like are we working multiple opportunities? Is there conflicts here? Is there opportunities to grow and expand and make our relationship more strategic with these larger companies? And this is the kind of the way that we see companies needing to grow, that once we've made that land, we can then start leveraging this for references to upsell, cross-sell, and grow within these larger accounts.
Who knew you could make Salesforce so powerful in this scenario for me as a business owner, of like all the times I talk to people or think about the companies that I've been, privileged to help lead, working with a company that has 30 of the top 100 Fortune 100s. Is your strategy to go get 20 more, or is your strategy to understand the overall family tree and hierarchy and go deeper and wider in those, 30 accounts that you already have? It's hard to know if you don't have the right information. How would you actually know? And you're just kind of flying and figuring out, not having a optimized go-to-market, where in this scenario, you can do that right away.
Yeah, and I'll tell you the alternative. I've done the alternative personally. You sit there and you manually move data around and build in manual associations with things, and then eventually you'll miss something or it doesn't scale. So I've sat down with previous ops teams to organize leads and contacts and opportunities and get the hierarchies set up correctly. And it's a labyrinth of work, and it's an absolute nightmare. So I, I don't think I don't think there's even another way to do this unless you're using a platform. So if anybody's thinking like, oh well, maybe I'll just have my analyst put it together, it's too daunting to get it done and keep it up.
I'm thinking for the end users as well, that if you can't see it, how do you capitalize on it? Like if you can't see the hierarchy, if you can't see the relationship, then how do you, and on the other side of that is in the conflict scenario, that if you can't see who owns the accounts, then how do you avoid stepping on each other's toes and things like that? And so just really simplifying and make it as easy as possible for the sellers in Salesforce to do their day to day.
Yeah, or if your strategy is to, like, hey, we want to grow and expand in up market or do account-based selling. I like your word there of like machine, becoming an account-based selling machine, Anthony. How do you actually ensure that marketing is deployed into the hierarchy well enough to know if it's actually working or not? both from who to market to in the rest of the family tree, and then to know how it actually is coming through the other end. So these are the challenges we're hearing over and over.
Right. We hear them too. We hear the same ones here too.
And that is a really interesting point as well, which is like looking at ABM, but then thinking about enterprise ABM. Like ABM is at the account level, ABM is at the units and industries level, but enterprise ABM is at all of the entities within the General Electric company. What leads did you drive? What
That's right.
campaigns? What was your investment in different campaigns? What was the influence on revenue? But also looking at the other side of marketing, which is intent, that being able to measure intent, not just at the account level, but also measuring intent at the enterprise level and looking at all the accounts within a complex enterprise entity, being able to roll that up and being able to create focus on where in this hierarchy should we be spending our resources, in addition to being able to manage it in that holistic kind of strategic way.
Yeah, and that comes back to the comment of, I don't know if Anthony coined it, or garbage in, garbage out, or wanting to take advantage of AI. Now put sales loft, or put outreach, or put gong, or put, one of the orchestrations on the engagement layer, and how do you put AI on the top end, or Salesforce, Agentforce on it. If you don't have this piece organized, you're not going to be able to capitalize on the engagement side or the AI side of who you should be going after.
Right. No, this is step one. This is step one to take advantage of all of the other applications you could be using.
And so stepping out of hierarchies for a second and just coming back to a very simple point around lead management, but it's so critical, is response time. That the more quickly you respond to leads, the more likely we are to convert that. And so being able to measure that and see like, hey, how quickly are our BDR team getting to the leads? How does that compare across different teams? What does that look against conversion? All the data out there suggests that, especially when we're in competitive environments, that if we can get and set the table first when we speak to these leads, the chances of us winning that business is so much higher. And so it is a simple point, but it's still very critical to the whole growing kind of methodology, when we're trying to get more volume into the business from a leads perspective.
My anecdotal story on that one was the last company I was at. We had a process where every new client that we won, the COO or myself or the CRO would have a conversation with the client and welcome them and ask them for feedback. So we're constantly learning. Where did you find us? What was the origin of the lead? What was your experience? What was your first experience? How was the sales process? What could we do better? All of those things, constantly trying to improve and just be a little bit better on each of that journey. And we landed in a client, IHG, and the comment that they said was, you were the first, you called us within 30 minutes from us downloading, some content from you. And the first experience was, one, if they're that responsive on the start, they're going to be that responsive all the way through. And then that first experience with your senior account executive and BDR was a very memorable one. It was great, good level of like give, get, and product understanding and knowledge, and not just all one way. But it was you responded within 30 minutes. And I was like,
Right. Yeah, if you can't expect them to respond to leads and potential opportunities, how do you expect them to deliver on everything else that's so hard to do? So, no, I think it's a huge impression. And one, you just get there first, but two, you just look buttoned up, and it's a reflection of the rest of your business and your product. So, I think it's incredibly important, and to have it up front and center for everybody to see, I think is great.
And what we've touched on is kind of the front end experience here and thinking about like that. How do we cleanse the data? How do we connect the data? But then how do we build out the rules? How do we orchestrate the processes to achieve our go-to-market outcomes? And this is where within the product you build out what I like to think of as the journey of what happens when a lead comes into Salesforce. And I will make the call out here is that one, our product is 100% native to Salesforce. It lives completely within your Salesforce environment. So you have all that benefit of leveraging what Salesforce does best, as well as being able to manage it and scale it within there. But also we can manage processes around any objects in Salesforce. So not just leads, it's your contacts, your accounts, opportunities, cases, even custom objects. And so we're focusing on leads right now, but as we all know, there's a lot of other objects in Salesforce that go to market is critical to, and they have equal requirements around to be able to connect that data, to be able to build processes to notify, to manage that in the right way. And so how this works, if we look here, the gray circle here it represents when a record gets created, when a lead comes into Salesforce. And then we determine, well, what are the actions that we want to take as a result of that? So it could be, well, hey, if this record is a duplicate, if it's a duplicate lead, what do we want to do in that scenario? Do we want to do things like create a task and assign it to somebody to manage that process? Do we need to notify different users, be able to use things like email notifications and Slack notifications? And not just saying a notification of like, hey, you got a lead, but actually giving them true context of why they received that lead and what action should they be taking as a result of receiving this lead. And then manage duplicates proactively. And this is where we're talking about that cleanse that like, yes, we can go and do a mass cleanup of our Salesforce environment, but if we don't implement processes and orchestrate processes on an ongoing basis, we're going to be in the same place in 12 months, 24 months, and we don't have to, how do we operate in that type of environment? And so what we can build in is ongoing maintenance of the data, be able to say, hey, what does a winning record look like? But then also doing things like field by field data retention, which is so important when we think of things like GDPR and Castle, that if we're merging records together and somebody said, do not ever, ever call me again, we should make sure that we prioritize that value. Otherwise, we're exposing the organization to risk from a legal perspective. But then also thinking of things like, hey, people fill out web forms and they give us great granular details on what they're interested in. If we merge two records together, we're going to lose that rich information about what they were interested in the first place. So it's doing things like prioritizing data, doing things like concatenation and concatenating values so that we don't lose the important data. The piece being here, the best of both worlds, that we keep the record that we want, but we still get to retain the data that is important to us as an organization. And then as we go through and we think of the complexity that even smaller organizations have or growing organizations have, when we match to accounts, do we want to look at, well, hey, are there open opportunities? And it might be matching the data deeper, that do we need to match to the most recent open opportunity and actually understand what type of opportunity that is. Is it a renewal opportunity? Is it for a particular product or something like that? And maybe we need to build rules to assign it to that opportunity owner or to be able to notify the appropriate person based off of how this connects to other data in Salesforce. When we have current customers, do we want to be able to assign it to like a CS rep or a support team if they're a current customer rather than to the AE? What we don't want to do is keep sending all the leads to the BDR team because their job is for finding opportunities. So why are we sending them things that they can't action? They're actually doing a process to manually assign records today that actually we can build through automation and we can get them the leads that they need to do their day to day. We're not creating noise for them to make sure that they get what is valuable to them. And this also includes things like doing round robin, like we can make sure that we can assign records in a equal way where we want to make sure that we're assigning to the right teams in that way. And then as we grow as well, especially if we might look into expand into new markets, maybe we make acquisitions, and that would be where trying to manage all this in one flow could be prohibitive. And that's where we can then build in this layer of having nested flows. So when we're thinking of like different regions, like we've sold to the Americas, we sell into EMEA. And when I talk to most companies from a go-to-market perspective, the assignment requirements for those regions are always different. It's a different requirement because the market is different.
Yeah.
So trying to manage all this into one place is challenging. And so that's why we can build these flows to say, hey, this is where we manage the flow for EMEA, and you can actually determine who has the ability to do that. The team in APAC doesn't need to touch the assignment for EMEA. So why do we give them the ability to do that? And so giving that governed control to get that outcome, that we manage the assignment appropriately for those different levels within the business. Again, looking future facing as the organization grows. And then the last piece was around that as well, was also understanding what is happening in this flow, that we can actually then describe, well, what are we actually trying to achieve with these different areas in the flow? We can build these kind of regions and actually label this out so that it's not just one person who built it, who's got it all in their head around how it actually works. Somebody can come in here and understand what are we trying to achieve with this. And then when we make changes, we know what this is kind of designed to do.
Yeah, and having the right, we call it data stewardship here at LeanScale, and trying to drive a culture of data stewardship, because it's something to be steward at all times. And like you mentioned at the front end of the demo, it comes down to the people, the processes you have in place to steward your data well, and then the tools and technology to help you do that in a scalable way, because you can't expect people to be doing this manually. I think it's incredibly important to do. So, Jamie, Adam, I'm sure a lot of people are watching through this and just interested in how to get started, maybe working with Traction Complete, or getting to learn a little bit more. I know, there's only so much you can cover in one demo, and I know each company is a little bit different, so you may show off different things to different people. But what's the best way to learn more and find out more?
Reach out to you guys. We've done multiple mutual engagements together. Reach out to us directly, if you will. We are always giving. We love giving. So we have some parting gifts, if you will, Anthony. So a couple ways that you can get a hold of us are two ways. One, whether you use us or not, we recognize there are other vendors that are in the lead space, that we're unique and we're different, and we're bringing a couple really powerful things from our customer support team that is absolutely world-class to natively being part of Salesforce, if you will. But whether it's us or not, there's a great asset. Get educated on it. It's your career. How are you optimizing that speed to lead and making sure that your dollars are spent well in marketing, and that the machine is working, if you will, from that process? Two, follow us on LinkedIn. There's a great post that we had specifically from our CTO. He spoke, he had standing room only at Dreamforce, specifically talking about how to get ready for AI and the data management aspects that you have. So there's content there. Follow us on LinkedIn, follow myself, follow Adam, reach out to us, reach out to you, Anthony. Get educated. We're here. We're one big community to help drive put RevOps and revenue optimization. Now is the time for data, and to bring it all together. So hopefully those are a couple things. Adam, did I miss anything there?
I think you hit everything on point there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And as I mentioned, we're huge fans of Traction Complete, and you all have been amazing partners to us. I think we've really been able to step up our engagements and the value we've been able to deliver to our customers. And I know anyone, whether they're LeanScale customers or not, of course, can get incredible value out of the platform. And I just love what you're doing. I love the mission. I love that it's about people too, and it's still tied to that. And I think it does take an entire community to get these organizations to a point where they can grow sustainably, grow efficiently, and ultimately achieve their missions and what they're trying to solve for. So I can't thank you enough. So Jamie, Adam, thank you again, and I hope this isn't the last time that the LeanScale audience gets to hear from you. When there's big news, big releases, new things you're doing, we'd love to have you back, and would love to share it with everyone who follows us.
100%. We're all in. We really appreciate the opportunity.
Definitely.
Thanks, Jamie. Thanks, Adam. See you next time.